गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदनंदना जय ब्रज जन रंजना जय यशोदनंदना जय ब्रज जन रंजना जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदनंदना जय ब्रज जन रंजना जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा माँ जय सुदर्शना जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय पतित पावन गौरनिताय जय गौरंगी बेंगलोरीश्वर गौरंगी जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपदा Hare Krishna. So we'll start with prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manoabhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutat Pad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tvam Sajivam साधवैतम सावधूतम परिजना सहितम श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमों विष्णु पादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णा प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौर तुसे नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्रा सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंद गोप कुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 9, verse number 37. आकर्ण्यात्मजम् आयन्तम् संपरेत्या यथागतम् राजाना शतधे भद्रम् अभद्रस्य कुतो मम आकर्ण्यात्मजम् आयान्तम् संपरेत्य यथागतम् राजाना शतधे भद्रम् अभद्रस्य कुतो मम आकर्ण्यात्मजम् आयान्तम् संपरेत्या यथागतम् राजाना शतथे भद्रम् अभद्रस्य कुतो मम आकर्ण्य having heard Atmajam his son Ayantam coming back Samparitya after dying yatha as if Agatam coming back Raja King Anapad Na did not Shraddha having any confidence Bhadram good fortune Abhadrasya of the impious Kuta whence Mama my translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnar and Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When King Uttanapad heard that his son Dhruva was coming back home, as if coming back to life after death, he could not put his faith in this message, for he was doubtful of how it could happen. He considered himself the most wretched, and therefore he thought that it was not possible for him to attain such good fortune. Purport. Dhruv Maharaj, a 5-year-old boy, went to the forest for penance and austerity. And the king could not at all believe that a small boy of such a tender age could live in the forest. He was certain that Dhruva was dead. He therefore could not fix his faith in the message that Dhruv Maharaj was coming back home. Again, for him, this message said that a dead man was coming back home, and so he could not believe it. After Dhruv Maharaj's departure from home, King Uttanapad thought that he was the cause of the Dhruva's living, and thus he considered himself the most wretched. Therefore, even though it was possible that his lost son was coming back home from the kingdom of death, he thought that since he was most sinful, it was not possible for him to be so fortunate to get back his lost son. Hare Krishna. Today, this wonderful episode of Dhruv Maharaj returning back to his father's house, but this time returning back not as how he actually departed. He is returning back in full glory. He is returning back with practically dimensions of transformations. This is how he is returning back. So King Uttanapad's state is that King Uttanapad landed up because of his ignorance, because of the influence of three modes, because of attachment, whatever we can say. Actually, he considered him. What to consider him? He was actually the cause of his son's departure to the forest, leaving the home. And thus, King Uttanapat was extremely sorry, extremely regretful. How wretched I am, how weak I am. I came into trap of some petty attachment to the external beauty, external qualities of my wife, second wife. I condemned my very son. What he wanted to do? He just wanted to sit on my lap. As a son, he has a full right to sit on my lap. And but because of my blindness, coming in the words of my wife, he condemned him. And thus, it led to a series of devastating events. So, it is said in English, there is a very famous phrase, to err is human. So, because we are conditioned, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mama Maya Durattaya, Three Gunmayi Maya. This Maya is filled with three modes. There's not a single moment when we are without the three modes. They are always acting in the background. They are always pushing a conditioned soul to act in a particular way. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahmaji explains that there are five kinds of ignorance, five levels of covering on the spirit soul, which completely make him blind, blind to the reality, blind to his own good self. Does he end up in getting attached to so many pious and impious types of activities? And does sometimes he act in a very, very obnoxious way, completely forgetful of his true nature, spirit soul, as a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yes, we are all conditioned. Even after coming to devotional service, they don't go away so easily. So they are so deep actually. Shastras, Rupa Goswami explains there are various levels of sinful impressions. There is a bijam form where we are able to actually manifest this sinful tendency, manifest in a bija form, in a form of a desire. But they are so deep. Not only the manifested desire, unmanifested desire. Within deep of unmanifested desire, strong tendency to do it. That tendency may sometimes may not be visible at all. Sometimes we may feel that I am a very good soul. Sometimes by coming to good association, interacting with pious activities, we may feel that I am a very good person. But actually, these tendencies are extremely deep rooted. At any moment, there is a favorable situation. Those tendency immediately outburst in the form of manifested desire and then in the form of action and then the subsequent reaction. Sometimes a soul who is trying to reform himself can become completely perturbed. How come? I I thought that actually the surface of my consciousness is clean. It looks quite clean. It seems that some years of sadhana has led to quite a good result. But how come this outflow of sudden obnoxious desires, unwanted desires coming and clouding my consciousness? Actually, they are so deep. That's why our Shastras explain that one of the finest of the 24 element is the contaminated consciousness. So the consciousness itself is contaminated. There is nothing finer than consciousness. Prabhupada translate it as contaminated consciousness. To that level, we are colored by the sinful tendency. To that level, that's why time and again we may end up in committing some mistake. If we are not devotee, their chances are very, very high. If we are devotee, still that probability doesn't go away. Again, fall trap to our previous tendencies. Again, fall trap the certain propensities of mind which we have cultivated for so many billions of lifetimes. They may again creep into, they may again surface onto consciousness and spoil the very fabric of our devotional service. But then what is the hope? Because the desires which come, they are compared to ocean. What power one has to swim in the ocean. No matter how good swimmer you are, the waves of the ocean, the insurmountable dynamics of the ocean, they are impossible. Impossible. It's not that only like, devotees were suffering. The devotees who are trying to overcome it, they are saying, Krishna himself is saying it in Bhagavad Gita. Mama Maya Durattaya. It's Durattaya. It's not so easy to. It's like battling against the oceanic material nature. What power one has. And that's why sometimes they may come onto the surface. So that's why Shastras, they give us the various examples. That's why if we see Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam is not about the devotees, but a very smooth journey. They came in contact with Guru, their life got transformed, practiced very intense sadhana, and went back to God. It's not that easy. Bhagavatam is filled with example where even these great devotees had a certain odd period, off period in their life. Some of them had a slip, some of them had a lapse, some of them accidentally fell prey to their previous tendencies. Most of the examples in Bhagavatam is all about this. Why? Because Bhagavatam want to glorify and how these great souls, uh, how they persevered with great. Bhagavatam takes into account the very insurmountable nature of the material tendencies, the three modes. Thus, Bhagavatam gives such exemplary pastimes and how a devotee was able to overcome those accidental lapses, that shortcomings, finally return home back to God. And that's why uh, throughout these pastimes, the wonderful qualities of repentance is told. This repentance is the only solace and wealth of a living entity who is trying to battle against the insurmountable material nature. So in Bhagavatam, you have so many examples where a devotee took shelter of a very sincere repentance, sincere prayers to Supreme Lord, a sincere desire of reformation. This is the only wealth of a living entity. And that's why we see in the pastimes of Parikshit Maharaj, right in the first canto, the very hearer of Bhagavatam, he went through such lapse, he went through such mistake where he accidentally, being a very noble soul, his very name is Vishnu Rata. Vishnu Rata means one who is practically personally saved by Lord within the womb. Even without taking the birth outside, he took darshan of the Lord within the womb. That was his glory. Somehow, we will not go into detail of why it happened, how it happened. He happened to commit a mistake, a serious mistake, of putting a dead snake around the neck of a great rishi, Shamik Rishi. So, okay, why it happened, what it happened, that is a different business. But what was his after effect? As soon as Parikshit Maharaj came to realize, oh, alas, I did a mistake actually. It was a blunder I did. Immediately, what was the attitude of Parikshit Maharaj? That attitude defines a devotee. That's why Srila Prabhupada says, advancement in devotional service depends on the attitude of a sadhaka. He doesn't take into consideration how much tapasya he does, what external things he can follow, how much pious he is. Srila Prabhupada explains it's all about the attitude which Krishna observes. Because external thing, it's very easy for Krishna to do it. Krishna can empower anybody to do anything. Krishna can empower Haridas Thakur to chant 3 lakh names and be beaten in 22 marketplace without any scratch on his body. That is the power of Krishna. He can do anything. In one moment, he can purify a living entity. When Mahaprabhu was traveling through the Jharikhanda forest, just by his one glance, just by his one touch, just by his few words of Mahamantra, the tiger forgot his full material existence, became a very humble and sincere devotee. That's the power of Krishna. Krishna can do everything. So what we can do in our sadhana, that is actually meaningless in front of the power of Krishna. Whether we can chant 64 rounds or whether we are chanting 16 rounds, we can never sufficiently match with the power of the mercy of Krishna. So these are all superficial. Yes, we have to make effort to please Krishna. What Krishna is very much interested into is the attitude behind that effort, the sincerity behind that effort. That's why Parikshit Maharaj's attitude was that of a very sincere repentance. Oh, why I did it. I really deserve a very strong suffering for doing such a abominable activity. And thus Parikshit Maharaj was quite ready in his consciousness to face any certain outcome which is going to come. And that's why when actually the outcome came and it reached to the ears of Parikshit Maharaj, he was very happy. He was thinking, oh, the justice has been done. Thank God. Otherwise, I was thinking how I will be able to counteract such a sinful activity. Thank God, Krishna arranged for my punishment. I will be reformed. That was the attitude of Parikshit Maharaj. And he had a power to counteract. What to say of counteract? To curse back Shringi. But no, he welcomed it. Gift of Lord. And that's why in Bhagavatam repeatedly, Ajamila, Bharat Maharaj, they had a slip. These examples. Ajamila had a slip. A very, what to say of slip? He practically slipped and fell down so deep, practically for many decades. He was simply associating with the body, the sinful prostitute, completely aloof from all the Brahminical principles, completely aloof from his true nature. He swept away. But what happened when he came to realize his mistake? He again took a U turn, and this time with great enthusiasm, immediately left everything, went to Haridwar with great repentance in the heart. He called out for the holy names of the Lord and perfected his life. Similarly, Bharat Maharaj, he had a lapse. But what did he do? He came to know that I actually fell down. I did a mistake. Immediately, in the body of a deer, as well as in the body of Jada Bharat, extreme level of repentance, extreme. And that repentance actually manifested in form of an action. Repentance is not just kind of a sentiment. It's a very practical action. This time, Jada Bharat was so cautious, so alert that even to his own family members, he never talked properly because he was fearful that any of my senses can lead to trap. That's why he didn't open up any of his senses. He was acting like a madman. All his senses externally were looking as if dead. He doesn't have any sense of what to eat, what to wear, what to do. He practically acted so aloof because he knew that Sharir avidya jal jodendriya tahe ka. Any of my action can lead to another trap. By mistake, I reached to the bhava stage. But from that, just one deer to deviate me, that was such a blunder I did. Just attached to one deer, I wasted my human form of life. This time he was closing all his senses, blocking all his senses to interact with any of the sense object. Throughout his life, he didn't interact with a single sense object. So cautious, such a repentance. So yes, mistake can happen, lapses can happen. Sometimes the three modes of material nature can be so forceful that sometimes some unwanted words, one unwanted action can happen. Sometimes the deep-rooted tendencies, which are so fine, undetectable, and suddenly surface up on our consciousness, fully perturbed our devotional attitude. Yes, it can happen. Very possible. Bhagavatam says it can happen. But then, what is our attitude? That determines our devotional stand. That determines our advancement in Krishna consciousness. With what attitude we tackle it, what step we take, how much we are again ready to take help of devotees, to be honest. And that's why it is said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Patita Pavan, but he is not Kapata Pavan. If we are fallen, there's a huge hope in Krishna consciousness movement. If we are honest, if we are sincere, if we are ready to beg forgiveness, it's a great hope. That's why in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, some Navdeep Vasis actually committed a lot of offense to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're practically blaspheming him. When Mahaprabhu was taking the names of gopis, drowned in the Madhurya Bhav, people, his own students were judging him. So, so when Mahaprabhu returned to Puri, from Puri to Navadvip, so many people, they were eager to beg forgiveness. They were coming, they were crowding. Practically, the space was falling short. People were practically crossing the river and reaching out. Mahaprabhu, please help us. We have committed a lot of offense unto you. Actually, we were ignorant. We were thinking that you are just a simple scholar. You are just a sentiment. But actually, we never knew that Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Saman. That actually you are Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please excuse us. Please bestow your mercy on us. Please don't make us bereft of your kindness. Please also shower on us some drops of prema. That was their prayers. What did Mahaprabhu did? He actually didn't know that what these people have they even committed any mistakes. As soon as these words of these sincere seekers, they melted the heart of Mahaprabhu so much. He actually forgot everything. He bestowed so much of mercy on them. That's the nature of Supreme Lord. That's the nature of devotional service. There's a huge space, there's a huge scope for a sincere seeker, for one who is truly repentant, for one who acknowledges his fallen condition, who is ready to beg mercy, huge hope. And that's why external perfection, external calmness of mind doesn't define a devotee. Sometimes by our previous pious activity, somebody may be in goodness, somebody may have all good habits. He may get up in the morning, he speaks very nice words by pious activities, but that's not the qualification of devotional service. Somebody who may have come from very sinful background, somebody whose habits are not pure, sometimes he commits mistake. But what defines a devotee is attitude with which he is actually trying to reform himself. On the other hand, in the Mahaprabhu's pastime, we see certain people, their attitude never changed. They were envious, like Ramchandra Khan, who was trying to defame Haridas Thakur, Gopal Chakravarti, who was trying to defame Haridas Thakur. Actually, their attitude was wrong, and that's why they ended up into great offense. We have the example of Dravida Gorilla, the pastimes of Krishna. He was actually a great devotee of Lord Ram, but actually he had some wrong attitude towards Lakshman. He was not ready to reform also. He was not ready to clarify his misconception also. That's why he ended up such a degraded kind of consciousness. We have many examples in Shastras of both things, where a devotee is ready to reform, where a devotee is ready to submit himself, be honest, be genuine, be ready to take instructions of how can I reform. And that's why, in every morning in our temple, we are singing, पतिता पावाना है तू भव अवतारा मुसम पतिता प्रभु ना पैबे आरा. Right. Oh Lord, Mahaprabhu, actually, you have come for fallen people. But kindly note, the most suitable candidate for you is me, actually, the most fallen. And what happens once, even if we reform, a devotee never forgets his previous life. That's why Prabhupada actually warned his disciples and devotees that never forget that what you were. After coming to Krishna consciousness, we are reformed, we have become quite clean, but we should never forget that what we were and again take it for granted, again become proud and again fall down. A devotee should always be humble to accept, oh, I was a meat eater, running after women. I was a kami, I was a wretched soul. These devotees, these Vaishnavas uplifted me. I'm very grateful to them. Does a this kind of attitude help a devotee to maintain steadfastness in devotional service? One of the reasons that why we are not steady, one of the reasons that why sometimes we are time and again attacked by our anarthas is because of wrong attitude. Because we because once we become transformed, we start thinking ourselves great. We start taking devotees cheaply. We forget that what we were, and then that mercy flow is stopped, and then we come back to what we are actually. Actually, in devotee association, we should never think that we are what we are able to see ourselves. No, actually, we are very degraded actually. Because of association, because of the that pure vibrations in temple, those anarthas are actually covered up, and we are able to act in a very nice manner. But we should never mistake it that actually I got transformed. It's because of association. We are hanging around. And once we take things for granted, that flow of mercy stops and we fall back to what we are actually. Then Maya exposes us. See, this you are. And that's why a humble devotee is a steady devotee. The key to steadiness is humility. Honest, if not humility, honesty at least. Honesty means to acknowledge that who I was and who I am actually. I'm not so sincere because other devotees are getting up at 4 o'clock. I also get up. If I'm left alone, how much I will be able to get up? It's a very big question. It's a question of a great honesty. That's why a devotee never forgets who he was, a loitering insect in the muddy water of material existence. That is the truth about our existence. Somehow devotees have picked us up. That's why always repenting, always trying to improve, always on a watch, always alert. And by mistake, any mistake happens, ready to reform, ready to take very strong steps to purify ourselves, ready to be honest, ready to accept some sort of punishment if given. That will lead us to a very prospective spiritual future ahead. That will lead us to a good, steady progress in devotional service. So, with this message, we would like to end today's class with a prayer to Lord Jagannath that may He always keep us in His shelter. May He never allow us to be deviated by false conception of our mind. May He always allow us to, even if we commit mistake, may we keep remaining in the association of devotees. Even if we have done some obnoxious activity, may devotees always keep giving us shelter, reforming us, correcting us, and take us back home back to God. जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथ राज श्रीमद् भागवत Hare Krishna. Is there any feedback or any questions? Would you want to add anything? No question to end today's class.